you are all looking forward to the presentations that we have today. I think they're going to be very interesting. We are just waiting on one of our presenters to get logged in, but it looks like she's here, so I think we're going to take a moment and get started here. So I want to welcome all of you to the webinar today, and we will be talking about collaborations. And so I am going to turn it over to Sarah Kuntz, our intrepid moderator for the day, to give us our introductions. Sarah, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Sonia, can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
Yep, I can.
Always like to do an audio check. As Danya said, my name is Sarah Kuntz. I come to you from the North Carolina State Archives. I'm also the immediate past president of CoSA, and it's my pleasure to moderate our webinar today. Just a little bit about what we're going to do as we get started here. If you look to the right of your screen, you should see chat boxes and Q&A boxes, and you can at any time submit a question, or if you have a concern or something's going funky, let us know in the chat or the Q&A box. You can select just to the panelists or just to everybody. You'll see a drop-down menu of who you want to send it to. We will also be using those areas for questions afterwards as well. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to introduce both of our speakers, and then they're going to go one right after each other, and we will take questions at the end of the webinar. Plenty of time for questions and answers, so queue those up, and we'll be happy to cover those at the end of the two presentations. So today, we are very fortunate to have with us two presenters to talk to us about collaborations in archives, both partnerships in conference programming and partnerships to share collections. Our first presenter is Jessica Knox. Jessica is an archivist at the California State Archives. There, she oversees the graduate internship program, co-coordinates the reference program, and serves as administrator of the Western Archives Institute. Jessica holds a bachelor's degree in history and anthropology from University of California, Davis, and a master's degree in public history from Sacramento State, and a master's in library and information science from San Jose State. She's a member of the Society of California Archivists and the Society of American Archivists. And Jessica serves on the steering committee for the Gold County Archivists, an informal organization for archivists in the Sacramento region. And then Jenna Lee Kybert is a digital librarian from the Idaho State Archives, or ISA. That is a division of the Idaho State Historical Society. Her previous experience includes 2 years of public library work while completing her MLIS at the University of Washington and managing the photo program at ISA for the past 3 years. She currently spends her days collaborating with colleagues and volunteers and incorporating feedback from users to dream up and implement means of improving access to Idaho's archival material. When she isn't working on digitizing collections, she may be assisting patrons with photo reference or working on partnerships for outreach and increasing awareness, particularly during October's Archives Month. Jenna Lee was recently accepted into the 4th class of the Digital Public Library of America Community Representatives and is looking forward to learning and sharing more about it. Outside of work, you'll find her outside, traveling the West and beyond, advocating for historic homes in the Boise area or tasting microbrews and food trucks with her hiking partner and husband Josh and their 4-legged hiking partner Charlie. Feel free to contact her, she says, to chat about tips and tricks and user-centered approaches for incorporating technology to improve effectiveness and increase access. And I would encourage each of you to think about opportunities to go visit both of these ladies. I know that the California State Archives is going to be hosting the Best Practices Exchange this year, and then in a year from now, the Idaho State Archives will host the annual NAGARA-CoSA joint annual meeting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica to start her presentation.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for being here to participate in the webinar. I'm going to talk about a mini conference that I put together with the Gold Country Archivist Steering Committee and the Society of California Archivists in August of 2015. So I'll get started by talking a little bit about where I work. So I work at the California State Archives. We have records from all 3 branches of state government. We have 14 archivists on staff, all of whom wear many hats. And part of our duties here is being involved in professional activities. It has to be a portion of the work that we do here. And so because of that, I became involved in a couple of different professional organizations. This one is the Gold Country Archivists, and the Gold Country Archivists is an informal collaborative group for archivists in the Sacramento region. It was established in 2013, and the purpose of the organization is to identify archival needs, issues, and concerns faced by archivists in the area, and to foster a sense of community among archives professionals in Sacramento. So we typically meet quarterly to share information, collaborate on projects, discuss issues related to archival collections, tour local repositories, and hear speakers who have information and expertise to share. The steering committee uses online survey tools to poll the members and develop meeting topics based on the results. So we do have a 4-person steering committee. We have Sarah Gunasekara from UC Davis Special Collections, Kathleen Correa from California State Library, myself, and Nancy Lanoyle, who's a state archivist at the California State Archives. And we generally provide the leadership for the Gold Country Archivists. And we are a relatively small organization. We use a Google group to communicate with our members, and currently we have 92 people signed up for that. And as a general estimate, we usually have somewhere between 10 and 40 attendees at our meetings, depending on the topics and the locations. So everyone on the steering committee is also members of the Society of California Archivists. And this is a professional association of over 500 members, and they're devoted to the support and development of individuals and institutions that collect, care for, and provide access to the documentary heritage of California and adjoining areas. You probably have a similar organization in your region. Society of California Archivists, which I'm going to call SCA from now on, holds annual general meetings, workshops, and other events to benefit the SCA membership. They also have this new program, if I can get the slide to advance, there we go, called the Member Initiated Events Program. Now this offers support for SCA members to bring California archivists together for a variety of activities, and that includes networking, discussion forums, site visits, special speakers, and of course mini conferences. For larger events, the Member-Initiated Events Program can provide registration, promotion, and organizational support from different SCA committee members and the SCA board. And so initially the Gold Country Archivists used the Member-Initiated Events Program for fairly small things, like we would purchase webinars from Society of American Archivists and host group viewings of them. We would host SAA workshops, and also we use the Member-Initiated Events Program to provide refreshments at a couple of different events. So we began working with SCA in the fall of 2014 to develop a mini conference in Northern California. We were asked to host a one-day conference during the year of the Western Roundup, which is one of the annual meetings of the Society of California Archivists. Every 5 years they hold the Western Roundup, which is a joint conference of a couple of different societies, including the Conference of Intermountain Archivists, Northwest Archivists, SCA, and the Society of Rocky Mountain Archivists. And this past year it was in Denver, Colorado, and a lot of folks couldn't travel out of state for the annual meeting. So SCA approached two groups, the Gold Country Archivists and a similar regional group in Southern California, to develop a mini conference at each end of the state so that SCA members could get together and network and attend different sessions. So the GCA Steering Committee was given a budget to cover catering, workshop fees, facility rentals, et cetera, and this is the link down here to the member-initiated events policies if you want to look at in that more detailed. The guidelines were pretty open for creating the program, so the steering committee decided to fit as much as possible in a single day. And so we brainstormed and tried to select a site in Sacramento that would involve as many repositories as possible in a walkable radius. We were looking at August, so as not to conflict with Archives Month and everyone's summer vacations. So we ended up holding it in probably the hottest part of the summer, so we wanted everything to be easily reachable. So these are the regional partners we identified. Of course, the Gold Country Archivist and the Society of California Archivists, but also the California State Archives, the California State Library, the California Museum, which shares a building with the California State Archives, and the Leland Stanford Mansion State Historic Park. So as part of the planning process, the steering committee selected August 28, 2015 for the mini-conference date. We decided to use facilities that were available to us at no cost, so that included the Secretary of State Complex, which houses the State Archives. They provided an auditorium appropriate for plenary sessions. The State Archives and the California Museum, they provided the rooms for the concurrent sessions and panels. And then the California State Library provided the absolutely beautifully restored room 500 in the Stanley Mosque Library and Courts building that could accommodate an all-attendee luncheon. So all of these were at no cost to us, so the facility savings enabled the steering committee to plan a subsidized Society of American Archivists workshop prior to the mini-conference, so the day before, and that was hosted at the California State Library, and SCA members were able to register at a significant discount. So the Gold Country Archivist Steering Committee determined the mini-conference program. So we secured plenary speakers for different sessions. We planned a catered break. We developed concurrent sessions with panelists. We organized an all-attendee luncheon, and then we offered group tours of 3 repositories within walking distance, which was the State Archives, the State Library, and the Leland Stanford Mansion State Historic Park. So the Gold Country Archivist Steering Committee used the Society of California Archivists website, powered by Wild Apricot, to do a variety of things. We were able to create a web page with event information on it. We were able to use the functions of Wild Apricot to register attendees, and that included online payment of a very small fee for attending. We were also able to use the website to send email blasts to SCA members and conference attendees. And this is kind of a screenshot right here of what our page looked like on the Society of the California Archivists web page. And that's actually still up if you want to go on the website and take a look. We have the copy of the final program there and some of the session presenter slides. So Wild Apricot turned out to be a really powerful tool that kept us very organized. And the mini-conference was ultimately a huge success for us. We were so grateful to the Society of California Archivists for providing the support, as well as to the State Library, the State Archives, the California Museum, and Stanford Mansion for providing the tours and facilities. The feedback from the post-mini-conference online survey indicated that the attendees enjoyed the plenary speakers. They really liked the concurrent sessions and the repository tours. And not surprisingly, the lunchtime caterer got rave reviews because everyone really likes a build-your-own sandwich bar. So throughout the process, we learned quite a bit about planning an event like this. What really worked well, as I was speaking about a moment ago, was using the SCA website because it allowed us to track and communicate with members of SCA as well as the mini-conference attendees by sending email blasts and monitoring registration. It was also great to split up the organization between efforts of the GCA steering committee members. Nancy, Kathy, and Sarah were fantastic, and so the way that we divided the work really made it easier for all of us. We were also able to use SCA's financial structure to pay the vendors. GCA does not have its own bank account set up because we're a very informal organization. So we were able to rely on SCA as the larger organization with financial structure in place already to kind of book the vendors and handle the payments of the attendance fees. The SCA treasurer was really flexible and responsible, so it ended up working out very well. Also, what worked out well was using our own repositories as the mini-conference venues. It ended up saving us a lot of money in that we didn't have to book venue space. So what was challenging about working with a number of different repositories and organizations. Probably the most obvious one is communicating effectively between all the parties. We had a huge number of emails and phone calls with a variety of people, and that included, building and facilities management staff, IT department staff, AV support. We hired 2 separate catering companies, one catering company to cover the break that we had mid-morning, and a second to provide the sandwich bar luncheon. We did have several plenary presenters. I believe we had 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and then a lunch presentation from the Center for Sacramento History, which is Sacramento County and City Archives. We also had the session presenters. There were 3 presenters per session, and we had 3 concurrent sessions. We had the SCA Board of Directors, the agency and department heads for the State Archives and the State Library, of course the GCA Steering Committee, the mini conference attendees, and the Society of American Archivists for the workshop. So that ended up being an enormous number of people to kind of wrangle via email and phone, so it was somewhat challenging. The second big challenge we had was managing the workload with a limited number of volunteers. The thing about hosting a conference that has an archives theme is that most archivists actually want to attend it. And so we tried to do our best to make sure that we didn't need to rely on a huge number of volunteers so that more people could attend the conference. It did end up making the workload a little heavier for the steering committee, however. So in closing, I just wanted to touch on something, the benefits of collaborative partnerships like this one. For small groups like the Gold Country Archivists, the biggest benefit was having access to resources that would have been really difficult for us to set up on our own, especially given that, we don't have a financial structure, so we don't collect dues from members and we don't have a bank account. Using the website was a huge benefit because, again, we're such a small informal organization. We just keep in touch via Google Groups. We do have a Gmail account, but that's really the extent of our communication. So having the website to disperse information about, where the conference was going to be, the program, and then even after the program was over, we were able to put some of the slides from the presenters up on the website, and it's still there. So that ended up being a huge benefit for us. And then using the large facilities at no cost. The State Archives and the State Library, as well as the California Museum facilities, are very large, and they could accommodate, a relatively large conference group. So we did end up having something like 75 attendees, and that way we didn't have to rent any venue space. It saved us a lot of money, and it also, provided people access to these facilities so that they could go tour them and just kind of get the experience of visiting if they hadn't visited before. Now, the benefits for large groups like SCA was providing a regional event to benefit its members, during a year when the annual conference was being held out of state and many people wouldn't be able to attend. So it ended up being really beneficial for building a collaborative partnership, and the event went extremely well. It was a great experience, and we were really ecstatic to have built the relationships that we did, with the different people at the State Library, the State Archives, other repositories, and the Society of California Archivists. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jessica. This is Jenna Lee. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. As it was mentioned, the Idaho State Archives is very excited to be hosting the CoSA Nagara Conference in 2017. So we'll look forward to learning from everyone we can about conference planning and any other tips that we can get from our colleagues. Today, I'm going to talk to you about our Adventurous Women of Idaho programming for 2015 Archives Month. We partnered with our local Boise Public Library to share our collections and try and expand our programming here in the Boise area. So I will also start with a little bit of information about the Idaho State Archives to give you some context for our planning during Archives Month. We are a division of the Idaho State Historical Society, along with our State Historical Museum, Old Penitentiary, and other historical societies, as well as our State Historic Preservation Office. The Archives itself has 9 staff members, and we are open to the public Tuesday through Saturday, as well as serving state agencies on Mondays. So as you can imagine, there's not a lot of staff time to go around for planning a lot of programming, but we want to take the opportunity to do some outreach. I should also mention that although we are a state agency, the agency itself is funded typically at 50% or less by state public funds, and we do generate the rest of our annual budget through our own income by ticketing, events, donations, grants, and other forms, fees at the archives for research and photographs, things of that nature. So that gives you hopefully a little bit of an idea of the context that we're working with, trying to plan our Archives Month activities. But we do recognize that there are a lot of opportunities to take advantage of during a month focused just on archives. So for us, we want to take the opportunity to promote new or newly accessible collections. We want to reach new audiences, and we want to educate the public about the care of their own materials in addition to those that are in our collections. We also would like to provide opportunities for our researchers to share the results of their work, and it's just kind of nice to do something a little different than usual, and that kind of feeds back into our goal of reaching new audiences. I think when we do something a little outside the box, I think we can kind of capture some attention of those who may not be aware of what we do. And we recognize that to reach new audiences, we may need to actually leave our building to do so. And this 2015 was kind of the second year that this current staff had done Archives Month activities, and we kind of started it back up in 2014. I don't know what was done previously, but these were kind of the ideas that we were working from for our planning purposes just the last couple of years. As you could probably tell with our staffing, our open hours are 11 to 4, Tuesday through Saturday. Some other challenges that we had in planning our Archives Month activities are that we have more ideas than we do staff time, so we have to be kind of choosy and kind of pare down all of the things we would love to do into something that's more reasonable and realistic for the time and resources we have available. And another challenge we had is just getting our events noticed. Here in Boise, and I'm sure in all of your communities, there are all kinds of events going on all the time. So particularly in October, we're trying to schedule our events around things like Boise State football games and any other kind of community events that are going on. And as you probably all recognize if you've planned outreach events, it does take an incredible amount of time just posting those events to all of the distinct different community calendars, social media sites, let alone our own websites. And then back to our open hours, we recognized over hosting a few different kinds of programs over the years that our evening programs are a little easier for people to get to, and we typically have a little bit better of a turnout for evening programs. However, we do prefer to have more than one staff member, so it's difficult to have an evening program that doesn't impact the rest of the staff and scheduling for the rest of the week. So those were kind of some challenges that we were working from in planning our Archives Month activities in recent years. So we look to our partnerships to help us accomplish our goals. And for this presentation, I will primarily be focusing on our partnership with the Boise Public Library, which is not just a couple miles from us, but I want to also mention a couple of other partners For example, our old Idaho Penitentiary site, which is just up the road from us, hosted our first ever movie night to great success, and we used that as a fundraising event. Being in October, it's great timing. People want to do events at the old pen. It has kind of a creepy feel anyway, so by doing, we played House on Haunted Hill, and we're able to raise a little bit of funds for Archives Month activities, and their staff, as part of the State Historical Society, was a great partner in that. And of course, I can't mention really anything we do without thanking our volunteers. And for Archives Month in particular, I was able to have one volunteer help with the posting of events on community calendars. And we also had events where some of our volunteers have given some of the presentations as well as helped us staff them and welcome our participants. So that's kind of an overview of some of the other partnerships, but I will jump into what we have going with the Boise Public Library. As it was mentioned in my little bio, I did work for the Boise Public Library for a couple years before coming to the archives, so I did have some knowledge of their resources, how their programming worked, and also some relationships already with that organization, and so did some of our other staff who maybe hadn't worked there but had given programs for them before. So the resources that we recognized at Boise Public Library that would be very helpful to our Archives Month are the available spaces and technology tools they have for instruction. There's a little image of one of our Archives Month presentations. They've got a nice screen, quick and easy setup, and a great room available. And the Boise Public Library also has digital and physical resources for historical research within their collections. They have well-established communications and marketing tools and schedules, which kept us on schedule and allowed us to kind of take advantage of their events calendars and things that they put out on a regular quarterly basis. And they are already opened late hours with staffing. So their hours go until 9 o'clock as kind of a regular schedule. So it made it very convenient for us to offer evening programs without involving too many of the archive staff at each one. They also have a very convenient location. Even though we are just a couple miles down the road, it seems like their central downtown location really makes it easy for people to get to the events. And we also recognize the ability of cross-promotion to let some of their patrons know about us and vice versa. So that goes back to our goal of reaching new audiences. The Boise Public Library just has so many more people just walking through the door on any given day, so we were really able to capture that and have advertising in-house there. And many of our participants did learn about the programs just by visiting the library to pick up their regular books like they normally would. And then from the library's perspective, they are always, of course, interested in finding new programs and events that would be intriguing to their community of users. They also only have so many staff and people that can come up with new programs and be putting on different things all the time. So we kind of help to fill out their schedule in October and provide some unique opportunities for their community of users. And then it was an opportunity for them to promote those digital and physical resources for historical research that I mentioned earlier. We were able to work with their staff to kind of go over the types of programs that we were interested in putting on, and we were able to incorporate their feedback. They let us know which ones they felt would be the most exciting and interesting to their users, and we were able to tailor our programming at that location for that user group. And in addition to that, we were also able to incorporate for the presentations that were done on their site, we were able to also incorporate the resources that they have in some of our how-tos. For example, we almost always have a presentation on how to do historical research of your property or home. It's a very popular one, and the library now has our Idaho Statesman newspaper indexed online from 1863 to up through the early 70s, and they also have Sanborn Maps subscription. So they have kind of some overlap in resources that they wanted to make sure people are aware of. And for them also, you know, some of our archives regulars may not always recognize the Boise Public Library as another resource for their historical research. So we were both able to do some cross-promotion and reach hopefully some new audiences through our partnership. So as I mentioned, our theme for this year was Adventurous Women in Idaho. And we came to that theme kind of by starting with one particular collection. We were very excited to have gone through our Elizabeth Jane Gay photographs collection and digitized straight from our original glass plate negatives. We were working with a scholar, Nicole Tonkovich from UCSD, as well as a local historian, Elizabeth Jaycox. They were doing their own research projects, and through that, we really ended up with a completely revamped catalog with some more accurate information about the photographs and newly scanned images. We are still, unfortunately, kind of working on getting that completely up online, but it's very far along, and we really wanted to feature that collection and that amazing work that had been done in some way. We knew that Nicole Tonkovich and Elizabeth Jaycox were both interested in giving presentations and talking about their work, so we just decided why not have them come out for Archives Month and really just use that as our kind of keynote feature presentation at the end of the month. So starting from that program, we were wanting to kind of broaden it a bit to include other collections and invite other researchers. So we landed on the kind of broader theme of adventurous women in Idaho, and this did allow us to also feature another of our collections on Augusta Fletcher, who is a teacher and took a 1901 botany trip around central Idaho. And I should mention Jane Gay, her photographs center on the allotment period of allotting land to the Nez Perce in North Idaho. So for 2015, we, through our partnership, ended up with about 250 participants across 10 different programs. 4 of them were hosted at Boise Public Library, 5 at the Archives, and 1 at the Idaho Penitentiary. We did include several guest speakers, which was a really great way to kind of incorporate some different subjects within our theme and take a little bit of pressure off staff to have to do all of the presentations. And, you know, while I mentioned that we had more ideas than time and resources available and that we wanted to scale back as much as possible, you can see we still ended up with a very busy October, and that will probably be the case again this year despite my attempts at scaling back, just because we get kind of excited about these things. So what our model was is we kicked off the month with the movie night. We knew that would be a popular event. We did have over 100 people at that event, and then we used that opportunity to talk with our participants about everything that was coming up throughout the month, and at each of the events, as we introduced our speakers, we really tried to promote upcoming events the following weeks and also really push for that final keynote speaker. And I should mention, the library was very excited about our theme of adventurous women, so what we ended up doing was sort of billing it as an Adventurous Women series, and we did have a couple of guest speakers in addition to our staff presentations there. And what I've posted is a little handout we made, kind of a two-sided thing to make it hopefully easier for our participants to see which events were at the library, which events were at Historical Society sites, and get a sense of kind of the full programming that was available. We did administer at some of our events participant surveys. We wanted to learn if we were meeting those goals and opportunities that I had touched on earlier. So we did learn quite a bit. We learned how people are finding out about the programs, what they were hoping to learn, and what kind of programs they wanted in the future. And then our first question about if a participant had ever visited the Idaho State Archives helped us to learn if we really were reaching new audiences through our different locations. So for the future of Idaho Archives Month, we do plan to continue our relationship with Boise Public Library. We've, after the last couple of years, got it pretty dialed in. We kind of know what they're expecting, and I think they kind of know what to expect from us. That partnership has also increased our awareness of additional opportunities in the Valley, such as our Valley-wide Big Read program that we kind of dipped our foot into this year and will probably be more involved in coming years. And a goal for us, you know, is these local programs and this local partnership is great. We are reaching more people in the Boise area who maybe didn't know that they could come out to the archives, that it was open to the public, that they could come and do research. But we are a state agency, and we would like to find a way to have statewide reach through our Archives Month programming. We're looking this year at, I'm hoping that we will do at least one webinar where we can get some participants from other parts of our state, and then looking also at maybe other libraries or local county area or regional historical societies across the state to see how we can maybe get some of our programming to reach out a little further. Additionally, our Idaho Library Association conference is typically the first week of October, and I have put in to present at that conference, so I would like to see each year having someone from the archives present at our Idaho Library Association conference and just kind of take that opportunity, since it is during Archives Month, to continue kind of some outreach in that direction. So, you know, once it is kind of hard to really know how many people of the people who are attending our Archives Month events, how many are actually coming to visit us afterwards. So I think that's kind of some feedback that we want to keep working on. But we are definitely just glad to kind of have those numbers and know if our participants are learning what they came to learn on the days that our events are given. So just to summarize our partnership with Boise Public Library, I would say that we're really building on existing relationships. We looked for a partner that had similar goals, but where we could reach new audiences, and also where we could complement one another's programs and collections and resources. And I think that kind of covers our Archives Month. I'm happy to take any questions now or offline. My contact information is there, so thank you.
Okay, thanks to both of our presenters, Jessica and Jenna Lee. Now is the time if you have questions. you can put them in the chat or the Q&A box, and we'll try to monitor that, or you can also raise your hand. There is a little hand icon over to the right, and you can raise that, and we could hopefully unmute you. We'll let our technical people do that, and you can ask your question verbally if you'd like. Any questions for our presenters? I'll throw one out to Jessica in terms of the collaborations for the conference programming. If you were to do it again, what is one thing you might do differently or you might improve upon in the planning, the collaborative process?
Well, I think one of the things that I would do differently, and I'm not sure if the other steering committee members feel the same way, is that I'd like to have more people in on the planning. We are a pretty small group, so there was only the 4 of us plus some volunteers. So it probably would have been better in the beginning to kind of recruit some people like a local arrangements committee to work the event, because we ended up having to be in 20 to 30 different places at once that particular day. You know, wrangling people who got lost in the building, technical difficulties, that kind of thing. When we first started, it didn't seem like it would be an overwhelming amount of work, but then once it descended upon us, I think we probably would have appreciated more hands on deck.
Okay. And while you're on the line, there's a question for you about, were you involved in the establishment of the Gold Coast Archivists, and any words of wisdom about starting a group like that?
You know, I wasn't involved in the establishment. This kind of sprang out of the Society of California Archivists created a strategic plan. I believe it was in 2013, and they did a poll of the membership. And one of the big things that their final report found was that all of the members wanted more regional activities. So the Gold Country Archivists kind of grew out of the strategic planning that came from Society of California Archivists, and then also an existing group of folks who worked on the Sacramento Archives Crawl, which is an annual event showcasing the archives in Sacramento. So there was also people on that group that kind of became involved. If you want to chat about some of the stuff that we've done, like the different events we've put on, you can feel free to contact me, and I'd be happy to chat with you about it.
Okay, sounds good. And then a question for both of you. What kind of increase in participation did you see from your new approaches?
This is Jenny. I'll go ahead and jump in, give Jessica a little break. This is, like I said, this is kind of just our second year as this group of staff and really doing a lot of programming for Archives Month. So it feels pretty new still, and we're kind of learning as we go, but I will say that I don't know if it's just the location or, if there is still a little bit of kind of a barrier for people to come out to archives. People, I think, maybe are less familiar. I don't know if that means they're less comfortable in kind of joining in and coming out to see us, but we do tend to see higher numbers at our events that are at the library. It's kind of a place that's sort of that third place for people already. It's somewhere they're used to going a little more regularly than out to see us. So I'd say our programs out at the archives maybe average around 15 people, whereas the events at the library are 25, sometimes up to 40 people coming to our programs. So we're really learning from our participants what kinds of programs to offer where. And I really would, as I mentioned, like to, I know that I have seen at least you know, a few people in the limited time that I spend on our reference desk, I have seen a few people come in shortly after our presentations, especially the researching historical homes and properties one. That's a big one where we do see people come out to see us afterward to kind of try it on their own. So I think slowly but surely we're sort of getting more people to understand that we do have open hours, that we are open to the public. People can come and do research and they don't have to, you know, be a historian or things like that. So I don't know, hopefully that answers the question. I think we're still gathering our numbers, but I would like to have a better sense of how many people come see us after coming to one of our Archives Month events.
Okay.
Okay, I guess my situation is a little different in that we were more looking at the involvement of archivists than members of the public, but using the initiated events program through the Society of California Archivists really increased our networking opportunities. You know, for the local events for Gold Country Archivists, there's quite a few regular attendees, and things like, you know, webinars or repository tours are always pretty popular. We can have like 20 to 30, you know, on average come to our events. But once we started doing the member-initiated events, we had a lot more participation from SCA members from other repositories and in other regions. As part of using the member-initiated events program, you have to open up your event to not just members of your regional group, but to the membership of the Society of California Archivists. And we've had people come from all over the state to Sacramento to attend a webinar or a workshop that was sponsored through the member-initiated events program. So I think it's been really great in expanding the reach of our organization and kind of building up relationships with other archivists in nearby areas.
Okay, thank you. That sounds good. Any other questions that maybe I've missed here in the chat, or anyone else put anything in recently?
I haven't seen anything, Sarah. So I think this brings us to the end of our webinar. If you do still have questions, please feel free to send them in. We aren't shutting everything down just yet. So I want to do some quick, of course, follow-up here at the end of our webinar. We do really appreciate your feedback. It helps us to make improvements where we can, and as always, to help us plan for next year's webinar series. So please take a moment to fill out the evaluation when it comes to you when we close down. We have all sorts of upcoming events. Please don't forget, May 1st is the deadline for the awards program. So please get your nominations in. Next month's webinar will be on funding collaborations. June's will be on collaborations with K-12 schools. And July, we will have archival documentation with communities of colors and marginalized communities. That one's a mouthful to say. We also have some upcoming CoSA Preservica digital preservation webinars. The introductory Module 1 and 2 webinars are coming up very soon in May, and then on June 21st, we have real-world digital preservations and program roundups. So take a look at those webinars as well. And each year, CoSA's corporate partnerships provide critical funding support for many CoSA membership activities and events. We are especially grateful to Ancestry and our other corporate sponsors featured here: Family Search, Preservica, Gaylord Archival, and Apex Software. Support for CoSA's program initiatives is also generously provided by grants from NHPRC and IMLS. And as always, We love to keep in touch, so please make sure to keep an eye on the website, check out our Facebook page, and check out the CoSA blog and Twitter, and sign up for those if you haven't yet. And I don't see that any other questions have come in, so I would like to thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you again next month. Thank you very much. Have a good day.